Hi there, this is Stephanie Cochran. I am with Green Shoe Foundation, and you guys are listening to Green Shoe Conversations, Episode 8. Thanks for joining us. I'm excited today to have with me my team. I've got Miss Teresa Deck is with us, as well as Rebecca Holt and Stephen Brinkworth. Hey guys, how are y'all doing?
Good.
Doing good.
Good. Tell you what, I usually start this out, and I'm going to kind of put you on the spot here for a second, Teresa. Why don't you tell everybody a little bit about Green Shoe and what we do?
Sure. Green Shoe is a 5-day retreat where individuals come and look at their childhood and what they experienced in childhood, birth to 18, and how those relationships were formed and how that impacts your relationships today. So it's strictly 8:30 to 5 every day, Monday through Friday for 1 week. So that's basically what we do at Green Shoe.
Yes. And over the last several weeks on our podcast, we've kind of been getting into really what the framework of our model is. And in that, this is the post-induction model by Pia Melody. And the framework is 5 core issues. And in episodes 6 and 7, I'm going to get my numbers right here, we kind of delved into one of the core issues, which is boundaries. And today, we're going to start kind of diving into another core issue, is self-esteem. But Steve, what are the other core issues with the model?
So in the model, just like Teresa was saying, we look at birth to 18 and those relationship dynamics that we experienced in those formative years. And we look at how those impact our self-esteem, our boundaries, our reality, our needs and wants, and our moderation. Each of those can exist within extremes because we may have seen them in extremes when we were growing up.
Sure. And even though I know we started with boundaries and now we're going to get into self-esteem, we don't number them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They're all interactive and all on their own as well with that. But self-esteem is, one of those important core issues that is talked about in the model. And I think it's something too that is really being talked a lot about today. Especially kind of in some of these chaotic and turbulent times. There's a lot of self-help books out there about self-esteem. I know in looking at this, I just Googled, self-esteem, and it's amazing what comes up. So because of that, though, I really wanted you guys to spend some time kind of talking about how the model does look at self-esteem. So Teresa, do you want to kind of start us out a little bit?
Certainly. Self-esteem is an individual feeling valuable and feeling worthy, and loving themselves. All those 3 words are basically interchangeable: value, worth, and love. And self-esteem needs to be based on your inherent worth, not based on things you do. And so in childhood, how you were treated by your parents, if you were loved, if you were valued, that help you create your own sense of self-worth and self-value. Because you look at an infant born into this world, they haven't done anything except be born, but they have inherent worth, they have value. They can't do anything to earn it or nothing to take it away. Their value stays the same from the time they're born until the time they die. We have inherent worth based upon just our humanness and our value at being a human being.
And that inherent worth, that's the key in thinking about it. And also and kind of what makes it stand out from other thinking about self-esteem. What other thoughts do you guys have? Rebecca, Steve?
Yeah, I think before coming to Green Shoe, when I thought about self-esteem, I thought it had to do with what you accomplished or how you thought about yourself or what other people thought about you. But self-esteem is an internal experience. It's created by our own thoughts, beliefs. So it doesn't matter how someone feels about me or what I'm able to accomplish. It's something I have to find internally. Self-esteem isn't something that one day it's up here and another day it's down here. You're inherently worthy. And so our self-esteem stays the same. We can make a mistake and that doesn't make us less than. We can do something really awesome and that doesn't make us better than other people. We're inherently worthy.
When we depend on outside sources to determine our sense of self-esteem, that's when we get into that problem. And if a child wasn't valued for just who they were, it was based upon their accomplishments or their performance or their behaviors, if they did or didn't do something, then their sense of value got skewed. It got off balance and say, I'm only good if I do this for mom or dad, or I'm a bad girl if I do this or don't do this. So we started labeling ourselves as valuable or not valuable based upon our performance, which is not what our self-esteem needs to be based upon.
But we carry that into adulthood, whether it was as a child, I got good grades, so therefore I'm worthy now, to now as an employee, high performance means, depends upon my self-esteem, or, how many, social clubs I can be a part of. Yeah, it's interesting how we do that as adults. We carry that through and we attach it to so many things outside of just our based inherent worth.
Mm-hmm.
I think Oh, I was going to say, one thing I think about is, as humans, a lot of us believe in this idea of perfection.
Mm-hmm.
We have to be perfect to be worthy. And what's interesting about that is we're all imperfect. At some point in our life, someone gave us that message, or we experienced something that said, you're worthy if you're perfect, when we're perfectly imperfect.
That's our reality is, yes, but we get that messed up and think that we have to be perfect, and if we're not perfect, then we're not valuable. And where I think we start to judge ourselves on our value and our worth based upon our strengths and weaknesses. And Pia's model very much looks at the extremes of I'm less valuable or I'm more valuable. And how do we get into that feeling of equality with one another based upon our self-esteem? Because we all have strengths and we all have weaknesses, but our strengths don't make us any better and our weaknesses don't make us any less than anybody else.
Yeah, Steve, you mentioned that each core issue has kind of the polarities, on that. And that's what you were saying, Teresa, that, low self-esteem of I'm not worthy or I'm better than other people. So can y'all talk a little bit more about those two, and then how do you find that balance?
I think one thing that's been important to recognize with that inherent worth is that, and this actually comes from another discussion I heard Pia have with someone discussing that inherent worth, that living in a finite plane, I get used to seeing things that have a start, middle, and end, that have a process to earning value or earning a reputation, and that my inherent worth does not come from those pieces of productivity. So my strengths aren't my esteem getters, and my weaknesses don't make my esteem go away. But just like Teresa was talking about, my strengths don't make me better than, my weaknesses don't make me less than. Both just define my humanity. And I have, just like Rebecca was talking about with that perfectly imperfect, I have a right to be human. I have a right to make mistakes and know that those mistakes don't make me less than anybody else. And that's a huge piece to take into consideration when we've got messages from the TV, from work, from family, from a number of different places that may encourage us to put that perspective in an unhealthy frame.
There's an example in Pia's book that she gives about a gentleman who put all of his self-worth into his job title and getting promoted and getting up to that certain executive level. And then out of the blue, there's layoffs, and he's one that's let go. And all of a sudden he felt like he wasn't worthy because he didn't have that job, no fault of his own. Because he put his self-worth into that position and that title, it's all now gone into that, that external piece.
And I think we can all do that because we live in a society that is so based on accomplishments and our successes and our failures. And so learning to attach our worth to our inherent value is a huge thing, because if we don't, we're always feeling like we have to earn it. or we're always feeling like we're never good enough, and so we don't take good care of ourselves. We don't love ourselves. And if we can't love ourselves, that have that own self-esteem, it's very hard then to love somebody else in a healthy way, because we love them based upon their accomplishments, not based upon their inherent worth.
Denise, I hear you talk about that. The other thing I think about, because Pia talks about that being other esteem, esteem that's outside of you, others' esteem for you. But with reality-based esteem, that's me comparing my worth to others. And one thing I always like to bring up with reality-based esteem, I mean, and you guys know the answer to this, but where do we do that nowadays? Where do we go and look and see what everyone else is doing and start comparing ourselves?
Oh yeah, what's your Instagram account look like right
Yes,
now?
social media.
Or let me put my, vacation pictures up on Facebook.
Oh yeah, I always share with people when we talk about reality-based esteem. I mean, my Christmas card this year was like me and my husband and my dog, and it was like so cute. You all saw it, but it's like, that's the one picture out of 50 that looked, perfect. And so sometimes we get into that loop of comparing, am I as good as, or, how does my reality compare to their reality? And so we can do that a lot on social media, and we get wrapped up in our worth in that way.
Mm-hmm. Or how many times, or what filter do you use on a picture, or how do you crop it to make sure it looks just right before you throw it up? Or I get upset because I didn't get so many likes, on a post, but all of that's based upon those external factors with that. I know for me, coming in and kind of learning this component of the model, it was absolutely life-changing. Just that concept of I'm worthy just because I have that inherent worth. And again, I'm that perfectionist that anytime I made a mistake, it could really affect me. And all I did was work to not make that mistake. And it's been amazing how that perfectly imperfect concept, we even put it on our t-shirt, and I love that. It's my favorite shirt, how much that has done for me and just loving myself and being happy. What about you guys coming into learning about this model? I mean, Teresa, you've been doing this now for 4 years, but how is it for you that concept of self-esteem?
I think one of the greatest gifts that individuals give themselves when they come through the retreat is learning how to love themselves, learning how to have value and worth. Real self-esteem, not other esteem, or not reality-based esteem, but loving themselves because they are valuable. They have inherent worth. They're born with it. It can't change based upon what they do again or what they don't do. But that's one of the greatest gifts that individuals gives themselves, is learning how to love themselves in a way that you can't get from anybody else. And if you are all alone in the world, you can still feel love because you love yourself. That's what's so amazing about it. You don't have to have anybody to tell you to feel love, because you have that love. We were talking about that. It's an internal experience of knowing that I'm valuable and I love me. And also we talk about a higher power loving us, that we have that inherent worth because it's been given to us by our higher power. So that's really important too. Mm-hmm. Rebecca and Stephen, what else have you all thought about self-esteem in this model?
I think one of the pieces that really stood out to me was being able to, and coming from a different understanding of self-esteem before coming into Green Shoe, I didn't look at it in the same way, but being able to look at my core self and recognize my own preciousness. Mm-hmm. And I think before Green Shoe, I wouldn't necessarily have used that word. But in thinking about that word, it embodies a sense of something that is sacred, something that is delicate, something that is valuable. And so being able to get in touch with that preciousness of myself allows me to, just like you said, I'm able to love myself no matter what else is going on around me, and be able to recognize that if times are difficult, it's okay to take a break. And that doesn't mean that I have to do something else to be valuable somewhere. It's okay to recharge my batteries and to do something that's loving for myself. not because anybody else said to, but because that's something that I deserve.
Absolutely. We haven't talked about that a whole lot, but Pia talks about the precious child. That's the core premise, that we are all precious. And I love that word. And even as adults, can we say that we are still precious, even as an adult? Not based upon our behaviors or what but we are precious because we're a human being.
Mm-hmm.
Rebecca?
Yeah, so I can't tell you the amount of peace I've come to find in knowing that my worth doesn't change. I know we're going to eventually talk about affirmations in one of these, but one of my favorite affirmations is, I'm a fallible human being who makes mistakes, but that does not make me less than. Oh, what a relief. I can make mistakes and still feel good about myself. Someone might not like me, and that's okay. I still value myself. And so I think for me, learning more about this, and kind of like Stephen was talking about, that shift from what I thought it was to now, there's just so much peace in knowing my worth does not change. And I'm the one that's in control of it. No one else gets to control my worth.
Mm-hmm. And there's not a list of things I have to do to earn my worth. You know, that's what I love about this. There's not well, if I only did this, then I would love myself more. Or, the 10 steps to higher self-esteem. No, I am worthy just because. And I like that word peace. I get that too, Rebecca. It's amazing how that just kind of lifted and opened myself up, to that love. And with that, it really did affect my relationships, because then I do have to look at, my relationship as a partner, as a mother with that, because I have inherent worth. So do my children. So do my family and my friends. And just being able to, open that up to them, it has just kind of changed everything.
It also impacts your relationships at work. Mm-hmm. I mean, if you learn to love yourself, it also, these core issues kind of, they intertwine. And so if we love ourselves, we're going to be able to set healthy boundaries for ourselves. Mm-hmm. We're going to be able to express our reality. We're going to get our needs and wants met and take care of ourselves. So self-esteem impacts all of the rest of the core issues as well in all areas of our life.
Yeah, that's a great point too, because it helps me to know I can ask for help. It's okay. Or if I make a mistake, you know what? Made a mistake. It doesn't crash my world, or it doesn't interfere with my relationships at work, and in working as a team. So absolutely. Well, next week we are going to continue this talk, and I think really kind of delve into what people think, and kind of getting into the myths, like debunking the myths of self-esteem, or that long list of to-dos that you have to do to have good self-esteem. And like Rebecca talked about, really wanting to spend some time on our affirmations and why those are, so important to all of us. So before we close, any closing thoughts, guys?
It's great to be perfectly imperfect. That's always my closing thought for the day.
Exactly. And love yourself, right?
Uh-huh. It is okay to love yourself in a healthy way. Yes. Knowing that you have worth that doesn't put you above someone else, but you're certainly not beneath somebody else either. Equal value, loving yourself.
Absolutely. All right. If you would like to get a hold of us, you can reach us at email, info@greenshoe.org. Definitely check out our website, greenshoe.org. We want to hear from you as well. What questions do you have, especially with self-esteem? What things have you used, or, things that you think you have to do in order to have that self-worth? And we'll definitely be tackling those. So we will see you guys next week. Again, thanks for joining us.